time to be here. My name is Eric Steckschulte, and I'm the Deputy Chief of Planning and Projects. It's an exciting time for the MWCD. We're proud to share the MWCD Trails Master Plan, a big vision to build almost 300 miles of trails across our region. Trails have been one of the most common requests from our visitors, and today we're taking a big step toward making that happen. This plan will create more ways for people to enjoy the outdoors, whether they like hiking, biking, or horseback riding. It will give families and communities more places to explore, exercise, and connect with nature. We're doing it the right way, carefully and responsibly, while protecting the land we care for. I want to take a moment to thank the people who make this plan possible. Our MWCD Trails team, consisting of Dylan Sayer, Logan Moon, and Aurora Ross, Craig Butler, our Executive Director, whose vision created the Trails team, Peter Novotny, our Chief of Recreation, our Board of Directors, who have approved the Trails Master Plan to move forward, the Trails Implementation Group, comprised of MWCD, interdepartmental staff, the Development Advisory Committee, and finally, our Trails consultants, NatureShape, led by Troy Scott Parker, and Forest City Trails, led by Ralph Pratano. This plan is more than maps and trail routes. It's an investment in our future and our communities. This evening is just the beginning. Please welcome our Trails Coordinator, Dylan Sayer, who will share more about the plan and what comes next. Thank you.
There we go. Hi, everyone. I'd like to thank you all for taking time out of your evening for joining tonight. We appreciate you showing interest in this Trails Master Plan and what MWCD's Trails program has in store for the next couple of decades. So with that being said, we have a presentation prepared for you tonight. I'll go ahead and bring up here as I get things kicked off, bring up the main screen here. There we go. 1 second here. This QR code here will take you to our website where the Trails Master Plan will live. If you're watching this, on a phone or on your computer, you can scan this, and it'll take you to that PDF document, so you can kind of review as I go through this presentation and look at what we're talking about. One thing that I won't do with this presentation is, go through every little detail in the plan or actually bring the plan up. I'll allow you as viewers to look at that plan individually and pick out what you'd like to see. Read the entire thing, hopefully, and hopefully you enjoy it. So as I said before, if you want to scan that QR code or go to the attached website below, I'll also provide an opportunity at the end. And as I said before, this will live on our website at mwcd.org for you to view later on. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get started. I know we have a lot of viewers from all around the state. Some may, live around our lakes and participate in recreation on our lakes and campgrounds. Others are coming across the state viewing this, maybe hearing of MWCD for the first time. So just a very quick overview of who we are and what we stand for. We're the largest conservancy district in the state of Ohio, and we cover about 1/5 of the state's land mass, or 20%. We don't own all of that. That's our jurisdictional boundary, but that is what our watershed covers. We own and operate about 60,000 acres, most of which is open for public use. And we partner closely with the Army Corps of Engineers. Most of the time we own, maybe the reservoir and the land surrounding that lake, and the Army Corps of Engineers owns and operates the dams that create those lakes. So our lakes and dam system was created in the 1930s due to the 1913 flood. And since the creation of our system, it's estimated that we've saved about $10 billion in property damage and saved countless lives in the process. This is just a quick snapshot of our watershed and our recreational lakes. If you've ever boated or camped with us, it was probably at one of these locations. So this just gives a broad view of how much of the state we actually cover. As I said before, most of the 60,000 acres that we own operates open to all forms of public outdoor recreation. And so obviously we're focused on trails with this master plan. But while we were forming this master plan, we had to keep in mind all these other user groups. So whether it's, hiking, biking, swimming, equestrian use, hunting, fishing, bird watching, and then camping obviously being a big one with us as well. We took all these forms of outdoor recreation into consideration with this plan. Just a quick snapshot of our existing trail system. We currently have around 28 miles of hiking and biking trails. That includes natural surface trails, crushed stone trails, and paved trails. We actually only have about 1 mile of mountain bike specific trail at Pleasant Hill Lake Park that connects to the Mohican mountain bike system. We also are close partners with the Buckeye Trail Association, and we're proud to say that we have around 25 miles of off-road Buckeye Trail located on our properties as part of their 1,400-mile long-distance hiking trail that circumnavigates the state. We also have about 14 miles of equestrian trails located at Pleasant Hill Lake Park that's largely maintained by the Ohio Horsemen's Council in that area. And so we look forward to partnering with them further as well. And lastly, one that a lot of people don't think about, we have 290 miles of water trails within our watershed on the Kokosing, Mohican, Muskingum, and Tuscarawas rivers. Those are all designated state water trails, and we're working on the last river within our watershed right now, which is the Wahonding River in Coshocton County. I wanted to show kind of examples of our existing trail systems, and our parks are no different than most around the state, to where we have the good, the bad, and the ugly of trails. So this is an example of a trailhead. These are some of the trails that we're looking to reroute with this plan. Serves as access to a remote cemetery, and so they maintain that cemetery, and you can see the traffic from mowers and side-by-sides that go up there to maintain that feature. This is Cemetery Trail at Seneca Lake Park, and as I said before, these are some of the examples that we're looking to address. This is Cemetery Bay Trail at Atwood Lake Park. It's probably one of the most popular trails in our system. And this is a great example of, paved or more developed trails that we're looking to do more of within this plan. Turkey Ridge Trail at Tappan Lake Park. This is another example of a trail that was also used for equipment access to maintain some ponds. You can actually see on the left-hand side the reroute that we created, which was a single track hiking trail that we partnered with the Buckeye Trail Association on. That'll be part of a reroute for the Buckeye Trail once it's completed. Some of our existing trails that were created back in the 1980s at Tappan Lake and Atwood Lake Park. They were actually put in for forestry roads, but they had in mind sustainable trails, or at least an early version of sustainable trails, to where they did try to contour those logging roads or forestry roads to be kept open for hiking trails later on. This is Hawk Ridge Trail at Atwood Lake Park. It does resemble some features of sustainable trails that we currently build. This is another similar example of Deer Trail at Tappan Lake Park, and it's the same way. They did try to contour around the hillside and make somewhat of a sustainable trail with this logging road. These are a couple examples of the equestrian trails within our parks. On the left, you can see some cupping and some erosion issues starting to form just because of the heavy use in the soil type that we see at this park. It's very well loved by the equestrian users up there. On the right, same trail system. This is on abandoned roadbed, but you can see the trails holding up very well because of the road base underneath. So same trail system, probably the same amount of use, but just different conditions allow for different trails to form. So I'm going to get into the master plan and kind of why we decided to do things that we did. So first off, being the benefits of trails. Kind of 4 categories, with the first being health and wellness. So whether people are actively participating on trails and using them, hiking, biking, paddling, whatever it may be, it does improve physical and mental well-being, as well as volunteering on trails. A lot of the labor is physical and can do the same thing. The economic benefits of trails include tourism. It boosts local spending with the businesses in that area. And one that a lot of people don't think about is that it increases property values for the houses in the areas. A lot of people look for direct access to trails, and they value that amenity. Community and social benefits, social connections between users or volunteers, alternative forms of transportation. So whether it's bike lanes, blue ways and greenways, whatever it may be, that they may be an alternative form of transportation instead of vehicles. And then trail events. We host trail races on our properties, group hikes, things of that nature. And so those are included as well. And then lastly are the environmental benefits. I want to steal a saying that, Ralph likes to say, one of our trail consultants. He says, a trail, we look at a trail as a surgical cut through the forest. We try to keep traffic on that trail, and it helps protect the environment around it. So that, enhances the habitat protection, helps prevent erosion from, people being where we don't want them to be. And then also, just education. We use interpretive signs along trails for environmental and wildlife education. So why did we want to create a master plan in the first place instead of just, continue to build trails as we had been? So in 2021, we actually created our trails division officially. And so before that, most of the trails, as I said before, were, existing forestry roads, access roads, mowed paths that, whenever the maintenance staff at our parks got time that they could maintain, or they were constructed by volunteers. Honestly, a lot of our better trails were constructed by volunteers that had more knowledge than maybe our staff did, and had good intentions, but maybe just didn't have all the knowledge they needed to make them, stand the test of time. Trail construction efforts in the past were fairly unorganized. We have all these different user groups that would like to use our property, but we had no way to make connections between those user groups or move forward in an organized fashion. So master plan will help with that. Since 2021, grant opportunities during what I call the COVID era, there were tons of grants available, and we felt like we were always trying to play catch up and come up with our projects to meet a grant's need, instead of having an organized plan in place and then finding the grants that fit those trail plans. So this plan should help with the grant opportunities in the future, as well as organize those efforts and priorities. It can also help with staffing and budgeting for these trails in the future. And then the main reason, we did amenity surveys in the past internally. I know ODNR in the state of Ohio has done other previous surveys or similar surveys as well. In the surveys that we've done in the past, trails were always the #1 requested amenity among all amenities within that survey. So that was a large reason that our trails division was created and that we created this master plan. As we said before, or Eric said before, we worked with 2 trail consultants on this project. The primary consultant being Nature Shape out of Boulder, Colorado, the principal being Troy Scott Parker. If Troy Scott Parker's name sounds familiar, if you're a trail manager or a builder, Troy wrote a book in the early 2000s called Natural Surface Trails by Design that is fairly common around trail circles. And then Troy's decided to partner with Forest City Trails and Ralph Bertano out of Cleveland, Ohio. Ralph previously, managed the Cleveland Metro Park system and has over a decade of experience with that system. So we couldn't have been happier to partner with these 2 consultants and show you the work that came out of that process. Before developing this plan, we sent out a trail user survey, and we had great responses. We had over 900 responses from all user types and experience levels throughout the state. It was a short survey. It only had about 13 questions, but it helped us really develop our trails master plan and help us focus our energy in developing these trails. One of the questions ask people, if trails influence their traveling decisions, and 76% either agreed or strongly agreed with that question. These are just a couple examples of the questions that were in the survey. One of which being asking people what types of trails they would like to see at MWCD facilities. It was overwhelmingly hiking and multi-use, followed by mountain biking, equestrian, and then water trails. We didn't include water trails within this master plan because they are kind of strictly on rivers for us in our district. But it does help show us that, those water trails, we can improve signage, we can improve access, and things of that nature. We just did not include in this plan. So it doesn't mean that we're not going to focus on water trails. They just were not included in this, what I'm going to call land-based trail plan. And then another kind of surprising answer that we got to one of our questions was what surface type would you like to see in newly constructed trails? And it was overwhelmingly natural surface, with very few saying asphalt or crushed stone. So a theme that you'll see within the trail plan is that a lot of the developed trails are near our campgrounds or housing areas, populated areas, I guess you call them. And then with the rest of the trails being planned as natural surface. So what was our vision for the Trails Master Plan? We wanted to create a quality and comprehensive trail network that served both the local users and promoted tourism to the region. We also wanted to develop an acceptable time frame, which we came up with over the next 20 years that we want to build this plan and trail system out. And probably the most important part is that we wanted to create a trail system that was what we call sustainable. Sustainable trails, they accommodate not only their intended use, but the amount of use that they receive to help minimize degradation and negative effects on the surrounding areas. Couple of examples, we have trail managers and builders that are obviously familiar with this, and then we have users that are probably less familiar. So a couple of examples of sustainable versus unsustainable trails in these two pictures. On the left, you have a mountain bike trail that is overly steep or may have some soil issues with erosion. They decided to rock armor that trail to make it stand up over time. On the right, you have either a hiking or equestrian trail. The soil type is just wet and not great for the use that it was receiving. And this shows a kind of a classic example of trail braiding, to where people are avoiding that muddy area and creating their own trails adjacent to the main trail. And that's something that we try to avoid. The mission of the Trails Master Plan that you'll see in the document, it was to shape enjoyable, sustainable, and practical trails that benefit the MWCD region, and most importantly, can be used by the majority of visitors that are located on readily available land. So majority of visitors, you'll see a common theme throughout this plan that there's not a lot of technical trails for maybe mountain biking or super technical hiking trails. We wanted, to try to get trails in place. These areas don't typically have, historically don't have a lot of trails in them. And so we're really just trying to get a lot of trails on the ground that are available to the majority of the public. And then, as I said before, located on readily available land. MWCD owns around 60,000 acres. We have a lot of opportunity on our own land that requires less work than acquiring new property or partnerships with external partners. We did look at other landholders or public landholders, such as the Army Corps of Engineers and the Ohio Department of Natural Resources, which you may see some of those in this plan, but they would require further coordination when we go to build those trails out. The 10 locations that we include in this plan are in this list. We did purposely leave a few properties. We exclude a few properties from this plan. The one that sticks out in this list is Wills Creek. As you look at the master plan document, you'll notice that the planning efforts for Wills Creek look different than these other locations. That is because historically we have discussed having a more technical or world-class mountain biking system at Wills Creek. And we felt that this plan would not do, that system justice. And so you'll see at Wills Creek's location, we'll have future recommendations or, some findings that we found within this plan. But it's not as in-depth or involved as the other plans for the other locations. This map shows all the locations that were on that previous list. all of our recreational lakes, and then number 4 being Beach City, and number 3 being Wolves Creek down in Coshocton County. So what did the planning process look like? So as I said before, Troy Scott Parker lives in Boulder, Colorado. He did a lot of this planning and scouting remotely. He did make a couple of visits to the area, but the majority of this planning he was able to do remotely using different processes and 3D models in Google Earth. And so we used Troy's expertise remotely, as well as our institutional knowledge, the institutional knowledge of our staff members, and then follow that up with ground verification by mostly by Logan Moon, our trail technician, and Ralph Bertano with Forest City Trails. While they were on those locations and during this planning process, we tried to keep the desired trail types in mind that we wanted for each location. Sometimes the terrain decides that for you, and sometimes you can put whatever type of trails you want in that location. It happens both ways. The trail corridors that are in this plan were designed based on user type, terrain, and attractions. Obviously, there's positive and negative features on these in these land areas. And we wanted to make sure that we were getting people into these desirable areas, whether it be for views or for there may be a boulder field or something that's an attraction for people to see. The trail alignments that are in the plan follow average grade or average grades throughout the course of the trail. And so most of those average grades are between 3.5% and 4%. Not saying that that trail can't be followed whenever it's constructed. It is a viable line, but we will look at each of these areas before they are constructed and add grade reversals and make sure that we're not missing anything. We also will, if we're working a location with a cottage area or a specific user group like the OHC, we'll further discuss these trail plans with those groups before constructing them, which we just didn't have the time to do that in this plan because of the very broad scope and all the interested users that there would be. This is just a screenshot of an example of 3D modeling that Troy did on Google Earth. This is our Seneca Lake location. And just the lines that you see, the pink lines were existing trails. Red would be newly developed trails. And then you can see a yellow feature there. That would be a bridge. And so Troy was able to get really good detail with Google Earth and lay out these desirable lines for us. This is just a screenshot from the Trails Master Plan to show how large a scale this plan is. So whenever, at the end of this 20 years, we plan to have almost 300 miles of new and existing trails. 248 of those would be newly constructed. And then with the existing trails, some will remain that we want to keep, but there will be a lot in this plan that are reclaimed or converted back to its natural state, whether it has erosion issues or whatever the case may be. Why we want to do that. You can look down below. There's 58 trailheads planned, 64 boardwalks, 64 bridges. These are all just numbers to help show kind of the large scale of this planning effort. 190 miles of trails open for mountain biking. As I said before, you'll see a lot of these trails are multi-use, and we'll discuss that a little later here. These are the master plan numbers by individual lake. So in the middle column, you can see the existing mileage. So places like Beach City that had no trails before will end up with 10 miles. Or Clendening Lake, that is one of our more scenic lakes in our system. It currently has 11.4 miles, mostly being the Buckeye Trail on the eastern end of the lake. We're looking at ramping that up to 70 miles just because it is such a great location. Piedmont being the same way. Pleasant Hill, you can see almost doubles in mileage as well. Trail building efforts up to this point. So since 2021, when we developed our department, all of the new trails we've developed have primarily been hand built. So, using specialized hand tools to hand bench trail. There are limitations that come with that. We can make a lot of single track trail, which would be 18 to 36 inches wide. We utilize volunteers and conservation corps for that. But that, like I said, that does restrict you to natural surface, single track trail. With this plan, we really want to ramp up the scale and the amount of trails that we can build in this time period. And so to do that, we're going to have to start machine building trails. And so there's, the trails will look a little bit different, but it'll really help us improve the rate that we can build things. So one of the main differences with machine built trails, the minimum width is 36 inches typically versus the maximum width of a hand built trail being 36 inches. We do plan on utilizing professional trail builders and contractors to accomplish this. These are a couple of pictures for people that aren't familiar with trail building. On the left is a mini skid steer with what we call like a 6-way dozer blade that they can use to bench trail. And then the probably more commonly used piece of machinery on the right is a mini excavator with what we call an articulating head. And this piece of equipment really minimizes the amount of handwork that's required to build these trails. A couple examples of hand-built trails that we've done in the past. Quarry Trail at Clendenning. We use the SCA Conservation Corps for building this trail or part of this trail. And then the Beal Farm Connector, which I showed a picture of earlier. This is part of the Buckeye Trail reroute at Tappan. We built about 1.2 miles of trail. Excuse me. About 1.2 miles of trail and 16 working days with 10 to 12 people. And so that kind of shows the rate at which you can build trail. It's very physically laborious and intensive, and it just kind of wears people out over the course of trail building. So what types of trails will you see in the master plan? As I said before, we tried to make as many trails multi-use as we could. So whether that's hiking and biking or hiking and equestrian trails, the only two user types that you won't see combined are biking and equestrian trails. We purposely kept those separate, as you typically see in the state of Ohio. We do have hiking only trails. A lot of times, if it's hiking only, it was because the terrain just didn't allow bikes or equestrian users in that area. And so we made it hiking only to get down those interesting places, whether it's rocky or whatever the case may be. We made those hiking only trails. The other category that you'll see in the master plan that's a little different than what you usually see are ABA accessible hiking trails. So these could be natural surface trails. They could be paved or crushed stone, but in areas that we could meet the requirements for ABA. So whether it is width, grade, and the ground clearance that was required, we tried to do that to offer an option for people that maybe they can't go on your typical natural surface trails for maybe a certain limitation, or they're older, or whatever the case may be. So we really tried to focus on those ABA accessible trails as well. What will these trails look like? So, it's going to range greatly between single track and your more developed trails. But these trails are meant to be fun for all ages and experience levels. So as I said before, you're not going to see those super technical trail systems like some more experienced users may like to see. We'll have some of those in certain areas, but they're more limited. Natural surface trails can vary in width, so we may have some single track all the way up to 6 feet wide. Just depends on the amount of use and the type of use that we want to see on those trails. We'll have stone and paved trails. They'll typically be wider, 5 to 10 feet. We do have some specific downhill bike trails that will average 5 to 6% on grade. Obviously, they can be steeper in some areas, but that's just the overall average grade. And then most of your natural surface trails in this plan, as I said before, will be between 3.5% and 4.5%. Those grades, can be exceeded with drainage dips or for short distances, but that is the average grade that you're going to see in these trail systems. These are good examples of single track. These are from, the Western United States, but still shows what we would like to see. Shows grade reversals, drainage dips that are put into shed water. But these are both good examples of single track hiking and biking trails. This is an example of a more developed trail that we have in our system at Atwood Lake Park. Cemetery Bay Trail, it has a couple of more developed bridges. It's 10-foot wide, paved, and it is one of the more popular trails in our district. The Beal Farm Connector Trail that I showed work on earlier, this is all hand-built single track hiking trail, and it averages about 2 feet wide for the duration of the trail. This is just a stock photo. As I said before, we don't have a lot of examples of mountain bike trails on our property, but this is a snapshot of a mountain bike optimized trail with a berm turn, so that those mountain bikers can keep speed throughout the duration of that trail. This is an example of a boardwalk that we did a couple years ago at Tappan Lake Park. The existing trail conditions can be seen up in the top left corner. It was super wet. This is at our Beal Farm location. The Buckeye Trail Association utilizes. And so because the original trail was so wet, people were having to hike for a couple hundred yards on the road and then use an alternate access to gain access to the trail. And so we worked with Buckeye Trail volunteers to build this 500-foot boardwalk that gives access to ponds nearby as well as the existing trail system. Another example of a boardwalk that we did at Seneca Lake Park. As I said before, this is more developed look. It's right next to our campground. But this is a neat project. We partnered with a company that they are creating a new type of composite decking that actually uses coal waste to try to minimize coal waste, and just a new type of project for us. So this was at Seneca Lake Park and one that we're pretty proud of. This is at the dam at Clendenning Lake. This is what we call the Quarry Trail, and a very recent project that we just finished up. It just shows an example of, we have some wooden crib steps. We do have stone stairs in there that are kind of hard to see that are using sandstone, and then a bridge. Oh, I apologize. And then a bridge that takes you across where they quarried the stone out of the hillside that we took the trail across. So this trail offers great views of the lake in the fall. It's a great wildflower area and one that we're really excited to share with people. This is an example of a bridge that was planned in the master plan for Tappan. This is the bottom part, or the main structure of this bridge is FRP, or fiberglass reinforced plastic, with wood railing on top. And so it is a larger structure and something different than we've done in the past. But these are the types of structures that you can expect to see with some of our future projects. Another example of an FRP bridge, we actually have a pedestrian version of this planned to be put in next year at Tappan. But these fiberglass reinforced bridges, they come in as kits. Volunteers, our internal staff can put these together, and they're relatively lightweight, and we can pack these into a backcountry setting for a bridge that'll last over time. This is a newer trailhead at Seneca Lake Park. That is also along the Buckeye Trail. This was an existing log landing, so the area was already cleared, but it connected to our trail system. So we utilized that cleared space and obviously installed gravel and parking stops, and this is more of the natural feel that we want our future trailheads to have. And then lastly, this is kind of a trails project, kind of an amenity that we had a ribbon cutting for at Tappan Lake Park this spring. It has been wildly popular from what we've heard, but we have a pump track, for kids and adults that you can see in this bottom picture, as well as what we call our tot track in the top right. It has a tunnel and a couple smaller features for younger kids to enjoy. But like I said before, we've gained really positive feedback from this project. So what's next for, our master plan and building out these trail systems? We broke the construction for these trails into 3 phases. The first phase will take place over the next 3 years, and we wanted to focus on some of the easier trails that, they're lower in cost to build, but they'll have a high impact and getting some of these trails into places that we didn't have them before. Phase two, we're really going to focus on, that we have some more developed trails in the trail plan, but all types of trails that'll make up our core trail network, and make those, those main connections that we want to see between locations. And then phase three will just be to, wrap up the trails master plan and tie in the plan as a whole. Some 2026 projects that you can expect to see. Atwood Lake Park, if you're familiar with the area, we have a 1.6-mile hiking and biking trail planned from the end of Woodland Trail, which is near North Shore Cottage area, to the Atwood Dam. So if you've driven the main entrance to the park recently, you probably saw pin flags that were marking, the construction of this trail. So we're looking to kick that off here next year. And then the other trails are at Tappan Lake Park. We have what we call the Tappan Valley Trail. This is a paved trail that will connect all of our camping areas, 1 through 5, to our beach. It's important to us that there's a lot of traffic, bikes and people hiking on the road through that main area, and this will help, alleviate some of that traffic. So we're excited to see that project come to fruition, as well as a 1.5-mile hiking biking trail that will connect Area 5 to the park entrance and that new Tappan Valley Trail. This will also be part of that Beal Farm Connector trail that I talked about earlier, and have that FRP pedestrian bridge that I mentioned as well. So these are all projects that you can expect to see take place in 2026, and we're excited to kick off our master plan construction with these projects. Lastly, not related to the master plan, just for people that are new to our organization or use trails on our properties. New this year, we partnered with an app called Outer Spatial. And so this is an app that you can download on your phone. I'll provide a QR code after this slide that you can scan, but you can download this app to your phone. There's a social media component. It serves as a GPS on your phone while you're out on the trail system. And we can do everything from trail challenges to just display information about our parks within this app. MWCD, ODNR, a lot of metro parks have switched to this app within the past year and a half. And so we're really excited to announce our partnership with Outer Spatial, and we hope that you are excited as we are and use that app as well. So we're at the end of our presentation. I'm going to open things up. There's a Q&A button towards the top that if people have questions, about the master plan and construction of these trails, feel free to ask, and we'll try to answer some of those questions here before ending our presentation. But on the screen here, I have 2 QR codes again for the master plan. That document will live on our MWCD website. It's there for the general public to view. And then the other QR code is to either download Outer Spatial, or if you already have Outer Spatial on your phone, that QR code will take you directly to our website. But we are part of the Ohio Trails Plus community. So go on there, check us out, check out the other organizations within the state, and get out there and enjoy some trails. If you have more specific questions that we don't answer in this at the end of this presentation, you can go find more information on mwcd.org/trails, or my email there at the bottom. I'm always willing to talk to people, about our plans, and excited to hear what people have in store for us. So feel free to email me in there if you have more specific questions. But we will see if people have questions in the Q&A here. I'll give everybody a couple minutes here.
Dylan, it does look like we have one. Do you see that question?
I do not. Oh, here we go. Okay, so we have a question. It says, how do you volunteer for trail work? So as I put on this last slide, my email, if you go onto our website, you can find our directory and contact me as well. But, we do have volunteers, the Ohio Horsemen's Council up at Pleasant Hill. I can get you in contact with them if you're interested with that trail system. We have the Buckeye Trail Association that we partnered with before. And then we've just had people, over the years that have an interest that have joined us on various projects. So if you do want to volunteer, contact me and we can discuss, the area that you're in and what types of projects that you're interested in. Give everybody a few more minutes here. And we do have another question here. It's a question about a trail plan. So before this Trails Master Plan, we had a document called the Trails Blueprint. That was a broad guide to connections between our lakes and local communities. And so there were some very broad connections made within that plan. This master plan is the next step from the Trails Blueprint. And so it's more refined and things like that. There's a question specifically asking, I think, about the south side of Atwood Lake and a route to connect the cottage area. So on the south side of Atwood Lake, as I said before, with this plan, we wanted to put trails that were on readily available land. And the south side of Atwood Lake, currently, we don't have a connection, around that southeastern side on readily available land. You probably could do, some kind of a bike lane, but it wasn't a very feasible option either. So I know in the Trails Blueprint, it showed a trail going all the way around Atwood Lake, to whereas the Trails Master Plan doesn't show that connection on the south side. It doesn't mean that we won't continue to look into an option on that portion of the lake. It just means that we didn't have a route that we were comfortable, publishing in our master plan at the time. We have another question about, trails taking place near cottage areas. So throughout this process, we were very conscious about, other user groups and people that would have access to these trails. Cottage areas are a big part, cottage areas and campgrounds are a big part of our lakes and properties. And so within these plans, we really tried to focus on providing access to these areas, these developed areas, so cottage areas, without trying to take, outside users directly through, people's yards. There are places that, may come close to cottage areas or campgrounds. And as we go to build out those trails, we do plan to connect with those individuals in that area or people that have interest in those trails, just as we did at North Shore with this trail that we plan to construct in 2026. We reached out to those individuals and discussed the plans that we had for that area. And I had another question about cottage areas. As I said before, with this plan, we try to be respectful with landowners and cottage areas, and we do plan to, discuss these plans with interested parties before we move forward. Give me 1 second here, guys. There was a question about connecting the trails to other existing trails. So we did look at options. I think this one specifically says about connecting to the towpath or other, regional trails. We started to look at those connections, but because of that, creating trails on readily available land, a lot of those connections would take either property acquisition or, partnerships with other landowners. And so for us to put that in a plan, we didn't feel that was feasible at this time. So we kind of looked internally, tried to make all of these trail plans on readily available land that we could either build on our own property or with a close existing partner that we have. We have one asking about if our maps match up with ODNR trail maps when our properties adjoin. So you'll see there is an example up at Pleasant Hill Lake Park. Our equestrian trails connect with Malabar State Farm, and you'll see a note in there. We do have proposed trails that we reached out to ODNR and discussed to make sure we could put in our plan. But before those routes can be constructed, we would have to, farther an agreement or farther our cooperation with ODNR before those trails could be constructed because they do cross property lines.
Looks like that's it, Dylan.
Okay. Well, so we're going to go ahead and end the presentation. We greatly appreciate everybody that hopped on and joined today. This was recorded, and we are going to post this to our YouTube channel for a period of time. So if you know somebody that wanted to join and was unable to at the time frame tonight, feel free to share that with them, and we can post where this recording will live for people to view in the future. So with that being said, we appreciate your time, and we're excited to build new trails for you guys. Thank you.